started with all eyes on Congress, a last-minute deal to avoid the most serious consequences of the so-called fiscal cliff.
The motion is adopted.
But the failure of both parties to reach a broader agreement led to steep budget cuts known as sequestration and a debt ceiling showdown months later. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un claimed he conducted an underground nuclear test. The UN responded with new financial restrictions that even China approved. The Carnival Triumph cruise ship lost power after a fire in the engine room. Thousands of passengers drifted in the Gulf of Mexico for 5 days with hardly any food or water in the end and no working toilets. A tugboat finally pulled the ship into port in Mobile, Alabama. Jimmy Lee Dykes shot a school bus driver, kidnapped a 5-year-old boy, and held him in an underground bunker in Alabama. The standoff lasted almost a week before the FBI raided that bunker, rescued that boy, and killed Dykes. The former LAPD officer Christopher Dorner went on a killing rampage, taking out police officers and their families. The manhunt went nationwide. Dorner killed himself during a standoff with law enforcement. Gunman Aaron Alexis killed 12 people and injured others at the Washington, D.C. Navy Yard before police shot him dead. Pope Benedict became the first pontiff in nearly 600 years to resign. His successor, the Argentine Cardinal Jorge Bergoglio, took the name Pope Francis. 2 pressure cooker bombs exploded near the finish line of the Boston Marathon, killed 3 people, injured more than 250. The search for the bombers shut down the city. Police say Tamerlan and Dzhokhar Tsarnaev also killed an MIT police officer. Investigators say Tamerlan died after his brother ran over him during a gun battle with police. Cops later found Dzhokhar Tsarnaev in a boat in nearby Watertown, Mass. 2 days after that bombing, an explosion rocked a fertilizer plant in the town of West Texas. The blast killed 15 people, injured more than 160 others, and damaged more than 150 buildings. Gay rights took a major leap forward this year. Delaware, Minnesota, New Jersey, Illinois, Hawaii, and Rhode Island all legalized same-sex marriage, and the Supreme Court struck down the Defense of Marriage Act. The High Court also struck down key portions of the Voting Rights Act, opening the door for new election laws in at least a dozen states. An EF5 tornado swept through Moore, Oklahoma. It killed 23 people, including many children. 19 firefighters died after battling wildfires in Arizona. Investigators blamed faulty radio systems for their death. 3 women rescued after a decade as captives in a home in Cleveland. Ariel Castro pleaded guilty to more than 900 charges, including kidnapping and rape. He later killed himself in prison. Former NSA contractor Ed Snowden made off with thousands of classified documents and exposed top-secret phone and internet surveillance programs. He hid out in Hong Kong before getting asylum in Russia. Asiana Flight 214 crashed as it landed at San Francisco International Airport. Most passengers made it out alive, but 3 did not survive. Investigators say one victim actually survived the crash, but a fire truck ran her over on the runway.
We, the jury, find George Zimmerman not guilty.
A jury cleared George Zimmerman of all charges in the killing of the unarmed Florida teenager Trayvon Martin. But the trouble has not stopped for Zimmerman. Since the trial, cops have pulled him over for speeding, charged him with aggravated assault after a fight with his girlfriend.
We welcome with humble duty a future king.
A new British royal came into the world. Prince George of Cambridge is 3rd in line to become king. Chaos erupted again in Egypt. The military ousted President Mohamed Morsi, the country's first democratically elected leader. It happened after weeks of protests by Egyptians who accused Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood of abusing their power. The death toll from the Syrian civil war topped 100,000, according to the United Nations. And U.S. officials say a chemical weapons attack near Damascus killed nearly 1,500 people. The Obama administration threatened a military response, then accepted an offer from President Assad to hand over his entire chemical weapons stockpile to a UN watchdog. House Republicans refused to raise the debt ceiling or fund the federal government unless Senate Democrats agreed to defund or delay Obamacare. The standoff led to the first partial government shutdown in 17 years. 16 days later, the two sides reached a compromise. The healthcare.gov website went live as planned, but technical problems made it nearly impossible for Americans to enroll in the new health insurance exchanges. By the end of the year, the White House said the site had made dramatic improvements. But the Obamacare fallout continued. Millions of Americans got cancellation notices from their insurance companies because their plans didn't meet the new requirements. Critics of the law said President Obama told an untruth when he promised,
if you like your health care plan, you can keep your health care plan.
The president announced he will let Americans keep the canceled plans, but only if their insurance companies agree. The world mourned when civil rights icon Nelson Mandela died. He spent 27 years in prison before leading South Africa out of apartheid and becoming that nation's first black president. Nelson Mandela was 95 years old. Looking ahead, the midterm elections in November will help decide who controls the next Congress and could give us clues about the 2016 presidential race. Of course, we'll be here for all of it. In New York, I'm Shepard Smith, Fox News.